Hey guys, Tagging here. So sorry it's taken me a little bit of time to post this next video. Um, every single time I try and tell the story to somebody, it's like I'm reliving it. And it's been 5 years of really, really tough times. I've been blessed too. There's no way that I would have gotten through this without, family and friends. But it's definitely been traumatic and difficult too. I'll let you guys in on, some of the amazing things that, happened to me during this time, and definitely some of the growth that I've experienced, and the things that I've learned. I've learned a lot of patience, a lot of patience. Um, so when I last left you, sounds like a comic book. When we last left our hero, um, so I had just had a CT Milogram done and woke up. The doctor was gone. I had blacked out. And I had a little bit of a tingle, kind of behind my eyes and a couple other funny places. And we found out later that after a CT Milogram, you're actually supposed to lay down and you're not supposed to move for like 4, 5, 6 hours. You're not even supposed to have your legs elevated, have your legs up. Which for me is extremely painful, especially at the time because, I had lower lumbar issues and I had to lay completely flat. I was supposed to lay completely flat. So they immediately after they took the x-rays, they sent me home. I wasn't feeling very good at all, and they sent me straight home. No instructions, no nothing. And so I went home, and by the time I got home, I was just in horrible, horrible pain. We didn't have a phone number for a doctor we could call. We didn't have anything. They hadn't given us anything for this procedure, and so long story short, they had also ordered at this time an EEG. This is the one I'm telling you about, the needles, where they stick the needles in you and then they run an electrical current through it and see what kind of signals they can get. So I also had this test scheduled, and I was supposed to have it like 2 days after the CT Milogram. And, by this time I had horrible, horrible headaches. But, this was my first time. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know even exactly what was happening. And what ended up happening was I went in to have this EEG done. And, I'm a little nervous of needles. They kind of freak me out. And so I went into the doctor who was supposed to be performing the test. And this was a workman's comp doctor. And I asked him, I said, is this going to hurt? I was really, really nervous about that. And he looked at me and he said, this is going to cause you so much pain. This is going to hurt you so bad, that this procedure I'm going to hurt you so bad, basically. And, by this time, like I said, I had absolutely no feeling from my waist down. It was all gone. But on top of that, um, I had this horrible, horrible headache, that was very distracting and very, very painful. And I didn't understand what was going on. And so we get ready to have this test done. And he, my husband's in there with me, and he's holding my hand, and this doctor just invites this other guy in there, a complete stranger. Like, I have no idea who this guy is. He never introduces him. He never, but, like I said, by this time I had such a bad headache, and I mean, I was in so much pain from my back. Um, we found out later that there was some really, really bad stuff going on in addition to the headache that I had and everything else. And, you guys will find out about that later. Um, and so I'm laying there, with this horrible, horrible headache. And he starts taking these needles, and they're sometimes, they're fair size needles, and he starts just treating me like a pincushion. Start jabbing them into me, just jabbing them into my legs, and my ankles. It's like, dude, makes me wonder. As I was watching him kind of do this, it made me wonder if that was what acupuncture, kind of was like. And so he'd, you know, stick the pin in me, and then he'd, turn up the juice, and he'd shock me, and then, he'd ask me to move my leg, and it's like, I can't. There was no movement. Yeah, there's no feeling there, and again, the pain that I had in my back, and this headache that I had going on. And I informed him about this headache that I had and the procedure that I had had, and he didn't say anything about it. And, as I'm sitting there, I'm not feeling anything when he's putting these needles into me. And it's kind of amusing because my husband's sitting there holding my hand, and every single time the doctor sticks the needle into me and jabs the needle into me, my husband, he jumps. He jumps. And, I'm sitting, and he's like, you don't feel that? And I'm like, no, no, there's nothing there. And, so this doctor just, I really think that the doctor really got frustrated. Not only, that, here he's asking me to move or flex, and I had no feeling. It was um, impossible, almost impossible for me to even feel. I didn't even feel the needles going in. It was impossible for me to feel if I was flexing, you know. Um, and so he just got more agitated, and just kept sticking me and sticking me and sticking me, And again, I was so distracted by my headache, by the pain in my lower back that I was having, and, the fact that I had no feeling from my waist down. So I think he was very, very frustrated that I wasn't screaming, that it didn't hurt. And I don't know whether, anyhow. So he concluded and finished that test, and, you know, we went, we went home, and it was another 2 days, and I just couldn't stand it any longer. And so I finally called the place where I had had the CT Milogram done at, and I said, listen, guys, this is absolutely ridiculous. I have been in such horrific pain for the last 4 days. I said, and, the person who was on the phone, they said, what did you have done? And I said, and I had a CT Milogram, and I've had a headache ever since. And for the last 4 days, I've been just in excruciating pain. I can't have, I had to wear sunglasses. I really honestly kept my eyes closed most of the time because the light hurt so bad. I really, really got empathy for, more empathy than I ever had for people who got migraines. Really, really absolutely gave me an appreciation for people who have got migraines. Anyhow, so they said, you had this procedure done 4 days ago and you've had a headache ever since. And I said, yes. And they said, get to the emergency room immediately. And I'm like, there's nobody here at my house, you know. So I had to call my husband and say, okay, listen, I called and they said I need to get to the emergency room immediately. And so my husband comes and picks me up and rushes me to the emergency room. And it was honestly one of the funniest things that had ever happened in a sense, because I had never ever gotten into the procedure room so fast. Um, I mean, I was in a lot of pain, so I'm sure my recollection of time was a little off, but they honestly did not even have me fill out like paperwork, or I barely got a band around my wrist when they quite literally they um, they they wheeled me um, into the, you know, where the procedure rooms were, and they basically sat me outside the door, so that when the doctor was done and when the room was clean, that I would literally be the next person in line. And so basically what had ended up happening was, found out that when the doctor pulled the needle from my spinal cord, that and because, you know, I didn't hold completely flat and still, you know, they were jostling me around and moving me around, that I had been leaking spinal fluid for 4 days. I had been leaking spinal fluid, and that will cause headaches when you don't have the right pressure, you know, and that's the pressure that I felt. That's the that I felt right before I blacked out. So I had been leaking spinal fluid for 4 days, which causes spinal tap headaches. And the only way to fix that is for them to go in and do the entire process over again. So they had to stick that needle back into my spinal cord and make another hole, um, so that they could, you know, put a little drop of blood, so that it could heal over. And then they pulled that needle out and put a little blood over that one and basically made a patch for it. And then they immediately took me to the recovery room where I laid flat as a board. I wasn't even allowed to have my head elevated for 4.5 hours. So that was pretty painful. Just laying on my back, the pain from my back, you know, not being able to have my head elevated, not being able to have my legs elevated. But it was amazing because the second he put, the needle was still in my spine, but the second he put those patches on, it was like literally I felt the pressure in my brain, like my tank was getting filled up, you know, and my headache immediately started to fade. To this day, though, on occasion I will get headaches from too much light. Never ever had problems with it before. So moral of the story, like I said, I'm just starting to get into. This is not even the good stuff yet, but this is pretty juicy stuff, I think. Moral of the story is ask questions. Do your research before you have a procedure done. Don't be afraid to question what the doctors have to say, because you never know what their intention is. And so ask questions. So that's it for this. If you want to hear more, You know what to do.